Hello, welcome or welcome back. I am Andrea B. Tuesday evening for me. Hope you all had a lovely day, and if not, I hope the evening is better. So, yes, evening time for me at least. Change. I'm used to recording during the day. Also, new background featuring my fiance's lovely Star Wars posters, but change it up a little bit. And beverage of today is, or yeah, for this video at least, water with some watermelon amino acids. And it's my first time trying it. It is phenomenal. So, gotta stay hydrated. Now, I will be discussing some very unfortunate news about being lied to. If you did not know, now you know. Society has been lying to us, especially women. Now, this will mostly be about how society has lied to women, and maybe the men can relate. I don't know. I am not a man, so I don't know what men experience unless they tell me or if I happen to do some research, but I can only speak from personal experience and, of course, stories, what I witnessed, etc. So it's very unfortunate because the majority has a very strong voice and it can be easy to go along with that. So if everyone is on board with a trend, I think the question is, well, okay, this must be okay. It must be appropriate. So I'm going to hop on this trend too because people want to fit in and want to feel accepted. And I think this is a piggyback from my last video about judging less. So, of course, people will likely hop on a trend if they're accepted, they believe they won't be in a group where they're being judged by people. And that has consequences. I think that will be the biggest takeaway from this message is that there's a consequence to everything. And a big complaint that I hear a lot of women make is men can do it. Why can't we do it? And technically, you can do it just like men can do it, but there will be consequences. Is it best to do it? What will likely happen if you do it? And I think that's what is often overlooked. And I just think of what's in the media because certain things are praised, and we should really be asking ourselves why. Why is this acceptable? Why is this the norm? Why is no one pushing back on this? Or why aren't more people pushing back on this? And we all will have to make an individual choice to decide what's right for us, what works for us, and what doesn't. So, yes, a lot of people may be jumping on a trend. Who cares though? If it doesn't fit your lifestyle and the direction that you are called to go in, why do it? Because you're only hurting yourself and blocking your blessing. So, one of the many examples that came to mind is the Free the Boobies movement. And if you want to do that, that's your business. But there will be consequences. Women are often crying out about being labeled as promiscuous and a lot of other words that I'm gonna try not to say for the sake of YouTube. But there are a lot of words and usually negative labels that come with that movement. And going back to, well, men can walk around with their shirts off all the time. Okay, you can also free your boobies. However, men that typically walk around with their shirts off, they are also being judged harshly. And sure, they may get pats on the backs from their bros and their guy friends, like, yeah, or, men that may sleep around with a lot of women, they may get celebrated for that. But ask yourself, why celebrate that? Now, if you just want to be happy for your friend, okay, if that's what works for them, go ahead. But is that something that you really want to do just to say, why not do it? I can be celebrated too. And if men can do it, I can do it. Because at that point, is it really about doing what you want or just doing it because men can do it? And I think people are confused because I think it comes down to what freedom means to people. And if freedom to you looks like being promiscuous and, just for the sake of doing it, it's just always an extreme. Like the church girl comparison to the worldly girl, it's like you're either this or you're that, and people don't know the in between. And finding a happy medium, it doesn't have to be you're this or you're that. And I just think that's why a lot of women are out here losing their minds and going to those extremes and doing things that it's almost like, what, I can't think of the wording, but it just reminds me of people that are obviously seeking attention, and so they go to the extremes just to make a point. And especially like those kids who are very sheltered, and we always hear they go to college and they're reckless, or the preacher's kids that are very sheltered and isolated from the world, and they go out on their own, and then boom, it's like the extreme opposite because they're getting a taste of everything that they missed out on. And so it can be overwhelming, and it probably feels like saying yes to everything because for most of your life you said no to everything. And so I think that's that happy medium, is saying yes a little bit and saying no a little bit, because if no one taught you that, you will likely be saying yes to any and everything, and it's going to bite you so hard that you will have to pray that God gives you a second chance to come back from it. And I think that stems from a lack of boundaries too, because if you're saying yes to everything, what are your limits? What will be that harsh point, or that, that breaking point for you where you say, actually no, that's too much? For example, drinking. If you've never tasted alcohol and then all of a sudden you get it, how will you know what that boundary is if you keep going and keep going and keep going? That's just something people figure out, and when they do, they just say, oh, never again. And so my point in all of this is one, I think it's sad that this lifestyle is projected, and it's not so much that the lifestyle is projected. Yes, while that may be sad, it's that what hurts the most is that people are falling for it, and I was one of them, and I am paying for it. Again, in my last video, I spoke about debt that I've collected because I was listening to the wrong people, and even a man, I use that loosely, an adult boy that I was dating that was also encouraging me to live a certain lifestyle, and he's no longer in the picture, but the mistakes and the decisions rather that I made are still with me that I'm paying for. And I think of another bad example of that relationship where things were rocky, and I remember him saying to me, maybe you haven't dated around enough. Maybe you should date more people to see what you like. Mm, no, I don't think that's the solution. Nothing wrong with dating, but why am I being encouraged to date around just to see what I like? And it's like when women say to their friends, for example, if a woman has only one sex partner and they say, how do you know you haven't experienced, you got to experience more out there to really know what you like? And what? How many are you going to experience to figure out what you like? I just think it doesn't take all of that, because that may be where we can learn from the mistakes of others and see what they're going through enough to say, I don't think I will like that. I don't need to try it to find out. Because going back to that example of dating, as a young girl, I always knew I wanted to get married. So every relationship I got in, it was with the intention of marrying. Yes, every relationship. All the puppy love relationships in high school, beyond, up until where I am now, I treated every relationship as we're getting married. This is the last resort. We're going to fight to make it work. And dating around was not a desire of mine. I remember one time having two guys interested in me, and I knew I had to choose because dating two guys at the same time was not an interest of mine. It's just, it's too much. And there's people that are doing it clearly. That is not an interest of mine. I like depth. I don't like too much small talk. And the process of dating around can be annoying. The constant tell me about yourself and what's your favorite color and the first dates, and it's just no. So I was always operating from, when I find someone that I really like, my eyes are on that person. And again, this is what works for you, but you don't have to do it just because someone else suggested or they think it's cool. And I just cannot believe that my ex recommended that I should date other people to see what I like. So, anyway, I am going back to the example, or not the example, but just the topic of consequences. And I don't think people are really considering the risk and what's done. And of course, sometimes we don't know until it happens. And but I think there's enough experience out there, like I said, learning from others. There's enough out there to be able to just gather enough information to see what may be a logical decision versus an irrational, impulsive decision. And that's what is so hurtful, is just seeing how so many women are hurting themselves, and some of them don't know it because they're too busy blaming other people. And to know that you have been getting in your way the whole time is, I want to say, the worst wake up call, but it can be the best because it's like, wow, it's been me the whole time, nobody else. People have tried to tell me, I didn't listen. The answer has been here all along. And I'm going to take a sip because the instructions said drink immediately. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to sip. So, it tastes like a watermelon Jolly Rancher. So good. So, help me out. Where did I leave off? Yes, you're getting in your way. And it's so beautifully frustrating because, as I said, when you realize it, you may say, if I would have known, if I would have done this, and I should have done this sooner, yada, yada, yada. But once you know, it's like taking back your control. And I recently had this conversation with a good friend of mine about how I'm revamping my closet. And teenage and early 20s Drea was living for summertime. Summertime was always my favorite season because my birth month is in the summer, but also it's hot. One thing about me, I hate being cold. Any type of breeze just annoys me. I am warm blooded all the way through. So I lived for summertime. I put my happiness on hold for the summertime. I was just laser focused on summertime, meaning I only shopped for summertime, fun in the sun, the shorts and the party clothes. And it's biting me in the butt because I've gotten rid of a lot of clothes just from not being able to fit them anymore. But the ones that I did keep, I'm learning to use what I have in a setting that, for the settings that I'm in, while adding new pieces to the wardrobe. And I had to have compassion for baby Drea because she had her own agenda. And like I said, I'm paying for it. And I'm now exposed to more professional settings, and my wardrobe needs to match that. And not just the professional settings, but it's my preference now because I don't care to be so exposed in the world with the booty shorts and all the crop tops. I'm just in a different space now, and that's what works for me. And so obviously then I wanted to be exposed, and now it's baffling to me that I wanted to be exposed because Absolutely not. Um, like, yes, it doesn't take all that to enjoy the summertime. But, and I would always say I love summertime because I feel that I can be best dressed because wintertime in Illinois, or in just all the different seasons, I wasn't thinking about being my wearing my best clothes. I was just focused on being warm and bundled up. So I took advantage of summertime. And now, like I said, I I think what's beautiful about where I live now is that every day feels like summertime or spring, with some slight cold days, but I got what I wanted. When I moved, I or before I moved, I was always set on being somewhere really, really hot most of the year. So the reason I went on that long tangent though is just to speak on the trends that I was following, and like I said, majority of women are wearing the booty shorts, and so I was on board with that. And what better reason to do it than summertime and the crop tops and that. And when I say this, I think to a degree we need to care what other people think of us, because to put it plainly, we need people, people need us, and we have to think about the people that are in the places where we want to be. Think of who we are modeling and why are we modeling them. So when I thought of the places that I wanted to go, I thought, yes, I want to represent myself differently, the way that I want to, but also to escape these narratives. Um, and people are going to talk regardless of what you do. But the point is, people will likely, if you are respecting yourself, that's all that matters. And chances are you will attract more of that. People will take you seriously, and those are the people that count. And so it's not about doing it if that's not really who you are, because most of the world is professional for work. But as soon as they leave work, completely different story. And sure, I know there are settings where your booty shorts may be appropriate. You wouldn't wear that to work. I hope not. But maybe you would wear that to the club, some type of party. And so that's not me though, and that's what I mean is I had to think about what it who how do I want to represent myself? And looking at the attention that draws, because I'm already going to draw attention to myself. And so I don't want to give people another reason to talk and say, I can't believe she came out the house like that. And wow, she's showing a lot of skin and not leaving anything to the imagination. And I mean the bonnet trend. I thought about this earlier. One day, it's like you look up and you see one woman with a bonnet, then it goes to 100, and every day, everywhere you go, there's a woman with a bonnet on. And again, you're gonna wear what you want. Some of you don't like what I'm saying, but it's the truth, and there are still consequences. How will people see you? And you're probably thinking, I don't care what people think. Yes, you do, because again, you're not going to work in your booty shorts. Because if you really are about that life, go to work in your booty shorts. Just do it. If you really are not caring what people think and say. So that's how I know women care, because like I said, there's a switch. They're very professional at work, but after hours, it's like when people, the jokes about church. You listen to your gospel music on the way, and as soon as church is over, you turn it on the worldly music as soon as you get in the car and pull out the parking lot. It's the same thing. Just like you're holy on Sundays, but you just went to the club and got drunk and wasted Saturday before church. So again, it's all out there and people can laugh about it and joke, but it's not a game. And so I had to take a look at how I'm representing myself at all times. I want to be consistent, and that doesn't mean I'm going to bed in a ball gown and like I know what pajamas are made for, but I know that when I leave the house, I want to be consistent. Or I'm not wearing a ball gown to go walking or running. I have enough sense, but even when I'm going running, I still want to be consistent with how I represent myself with my wardrobe. Just like the gym girlies that are wearing their really tight Spanx that's so far in their butt, you're drawing attention. And again, you're going to draw attention regardless of what you do. But it's even more attention, and people are labeling you, grouping you with the rest of the promiscuous women. So, if that's how you want to be labeled, do what the promiscuous women do. Google how the sex workers of the 50s and 60s dressed. You will understand why people are looking at you like you are a sex worker if you dress the same. Same as a regular cop uniform. If you put that on, people are going to think you are a cop. So I point that out because a lot of women act clueless when people categorize them. And I just think, now, will you be judged unfairly? You can be sweet as pie, but if you're dressed like a sex worker, people will pass you up or think they'll try to pay you to do some stuff. And that doesn't feel good to automatically be labeled, but hopefully you see why you're automatically labeled and taken in a way that you don't want to be taken. And that's why this is so important, is because if you can see that, then you will have the clarity of, oh, if I don't want to be perceived this way, maybe I should not do it. The same as in an alcoholic. If you don't want to be perceived as an alcoholic, you're probably not going to do what alcoholics do. Or what's another? I can't think of another one. Or a thief. Don't do what thieves do. if you don't want to be labeled this way, don't do what they do. And so I know, because this is how my brain works. Like I said, people are going to label you and judge you regardless. But if you're not giving them a reason to, your chances are very slim. Very slim. Because I remember the times that I was wearing the hot girl summer clothes. I was getting catcalled a lot with the the pet names, the baby and the little hey little mama, and it was just, and I was annoyed when the men did it, but I kept wearing those clothes. And now I don't get that. I get the, apparently, let my fiance tell it. He says men stare at me when we go out, and I'm just in my own world enjoying the moment that I don't notice because I'm not trying to make eye contact with them and signal them in any way, but he's noticing. And even when I'm out by myself, I don't get approached the way that I used to. I may get compliments from men. I've gotten compliments about my hair, and I've had men say, "Oh, how are you doing?" And respectfully, when they find out I'm in a relationship, they leave me alone. And there is a difference in how I am treated. And not all the time, but majority of the time is a difference. Because I remember recently one guy asked me if I was in a happy relationship, and he first asked if I was in a relationship. I said yes, and he said, "Are you happy?" And I'm thinking, he was still respectful. He didn't push, but I'm thinking, you don't need to ask that. Just know that I'm in a relationship, and we can leave it at that. Because if I'm not in a happy relationship, what in the world were you going to do or suggest that I do? But even that, it's not the worst, because I've had examples in my hot girl summer phase where guys are like, "Oh, your man won't let you have friends, and he left you out here by yourself." And yeah, big difference. So they probably thought I was a very fast tail girl that they could just have fun with. And look at what I said earlier. I always desired marriage, but my actions and my wardrobe did not reflect that, because a man of God is looking for a woman of God. And hot girl summer, you can be a woman of God, but it won't look like it. That's all I'm saying. And you have enough sense to know why it won't look like it, because a woman of God has elegance and grace and shows a respectful amount of skin. And I know there are levels to it, because what I have now, some people may say that's too much. Your arms and your shoulders are out. My face is exposed. They may judge me for that. But here in America, this is modest and elegant. And my point is, just have enough sense and be mad. I know this isn't pleasant, especially for the times, because women are really fighting back and wanting to push against the norms and all the stereotypes, and some things stick. Go back in the Bible and look at those early examples of what promiscuous women did to seduce the men, and God's design for women that served him is to be modest and to represent yourself, because If you're not doing it before you get the man, what makes why should people think you're going to do it when you get the man? So, represent yourself, start early so that that man of God will see you. You will already be standing out. He will see that you are already in position to be a wife, because a man of God wants to lead you, but he doesn't want to start from scratch where it feels like he's taking on a project. And I'm 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 thinking of how far I want to go in this. This may have to be a part three of attracting a man of God. And so I can, like I said, this may even be a part two, because as a woman, I have lived following trends, and I know all of us can say that, even if you don't want to admit it. But we have been lied to so much about the right path to take of go to school and then you get married and then you have the kids. And so nothing wrong with that path, but some of us have followed it because we thought we should have, and we had no other choice because no one showed us anything else. And so people will make you believe that you have to follow that route, and you are not worthy if you don't follow that and have those degrees, the credentials behind your name, and making a certain amount by a certain age. And it's unfortunate because, and I can speak from my personal experience going to college, grad school, and not considering the return of investment financially and time, when even all the options of going to school, as far as paying for school. Now, yes, student loans are available, and it's not always the best route. And that is what people won't tell you. And so, most people are in school collecting a lot of debt and then expecting to pay it off, get a high paying job, pay it off, and everything will be fine. And we have to be realistic. And if you are not considering those options and looking at the field you want to go in and how much you are expected to make, and if that return of investment will match up, you will be in a boatload of trouble. And it's not the worst. Don't want to scare you, but it's real. Because those are not the questions that I considered asking. I did not know until after grad school. And now I'm thinking, oh, well, if I knew this information, shoulda, coulda, woulda. But I'm here now, and I'm learning to accept the choices and not beat myself up because I just did not know. I did not have people telling me this, because everyone, and I chose to listen. But my point is, everyone around me is saying, do it this way, and oh, this is what these loans are for. You know, you can pay for school and have fun. And not knowing better, I went that route. And who knows what would have been different if I had enough people around me telling me the opposite of, you know, go into school and ask these questions. Don't just take on debt that you can't afford. And I had another example in mind as I was talking about school and collecting debt. I can't remember. I think it was along the lines of, as I was saying, I was just having fun with it and just living my best life. I don't know. It'll come back to me. Oh, yes. Not only was I in school, but I was also trying to keep up with this lifestyle, which I said earlier, dating someone at the time that was all about living a flashy life, but basically paycheck to paycheck and wanting to do a lot of extravagant things. I remember for my birthday, he offered to pay for my dinner, and I went to a Jamaican restaurant, got some oxtail with rice and peas and cabbage, about $25. And he said, "Oh, that's it? That's what you wanted? Like, I thought you would have gotten something a little bit more extravagant." I don't know what word he used, but it was along the lines of extravagant. And I'm thinking, this is what I want. It's great and it's good enough. And another example, we took a trip, and I remember him making a comment of, because I offered to pay for food on the trip, and we split the cost different ways. And I remember him making a comment and saying, even though you offered to pay, I was still going to pay anyway, and I was going to be taking us to places where I would spend a couple hundred on food. And this was before the trip. That's why he made that comment, because we didn't make it there yet. But he, in the heat of the moment, made that comment to try to prove a point of how he's willing to spend hundreds of dollars for us to have a good time, and how I'm different. Yes, if it's if that's what I want to do, I will spend the money. But it doesn't take always having to spend a couple $100s to have a good time. And having that influence around me just to keep the peace and shut them up, I ran up my credit card. And that's what I mean when I say, if you are listening to the wrong people, it will get you into a boatload of trouble. And I can only blame myself because I chose to listen. And that's where I say it sucks. But now that I know, I won't do it again. Absolutely not. So it's not just women lying to each other, but also men are lying to women. Because there are a lot of men that just don't know better out there. And when I think of how most of this started, and by this I mean just think about Victoria's Secret being created by a man, and those early modern days when women were mostly at home cooking and doing the child care. TV is popular, talk shows and magazines. The marketing, men and women behind the marketing, we're trying to convince the women at home to live a certain lifestyle so that their husbands are working their butts off and their wives are convincing them, we need this. I saw this on an infomercial. We need this, this, and this. And then the Victoria's Secret, and then all the makeups of this is what you need to be beautiful, and this is what'll keep your man happy. And it's like, oh, I gotta have all this, and this, and this, and this. Overconsumption. And that's what I mean by society is lying and has been lying for a very, very, very long time. And so it's through generations where if you don't know better, chances are your parents didn't know better, your grandparents, whoever took care of you, wherever you spent most of your time, chances are they didn't know better. And I think that allows us, and hopefully does allow us, to have compassion for those people as well. And and just saying, wow, you did not know better. And so I wondered how this affected you. Because, and it's not to make excuses for people, but it shows how important it is to get this message. Because, like I said, if you don't get it, if you are teaching your children, especially your daughters, that it's okay to be promiscuous and have fun and just do it all in your 20s, and then when you're 30, you can settle down. Absolutely not. Their past will follow them, it will haunt them, it will be a reminder. If they are not being taught to think logically and use wisdom at a very young age, it will catch up to them. And that's where I hope selflessness comes in, and putting your selfish desires aside enough to say, I don't want my kids to suffer, my cousins, I don't want the children around me to suffer. This is where it takes a village comes in. And being being that person in this world, not just in your household, but of course it starts with you. It starts in your household, but everywhere you go, being an example of wisdom and grace and elegance, and what is it for men? I guess being a man and standing up so that you can be an example. And like I said, wherever you spend the most of your time, whoever you spend the most of your time listening to, it's likely that you will pick that up because you just haven't been exposed to anything else. And that's why it's sad. That's where I think compassion comes in, is that if you are exposed to something else so much, who knows what would be different. And I believe that is why God has called me to not only start this channel, but to keep spreading this message and messages like this, because the more you're exposed to it, you keep listening to not just me, but others that are living for God and people that are just promoting peace and wellness and growth. Keep listening to those voices. The more you hear it, the more it's ingrained in you, and you'll tune out the noise and the distractions. They will just turn you off so bad that you can't stand to look at it or listen, that your discernment will be so strong that you will be able to see it, hear it in a heartbeat, that it won't take long. You will immediately say, oh, because you won't be blinded to it. As my fiance loves saying, once you hear it or once you see it, you can't unsee it. And absolutely. And that's why I continue to share these examples. And that's why I love just my testimony, because when I look back, it is, I can learn from my experience. I like to use everything I went through as a lesson. As hurtful or painful as it is still a lesson, so that I won't go back to the hurt and the pain and the chaos, everything that didn't work for me. And this is a message that I love sharing with my clients too, about now that you know, just use that, because people come in all the time saying, I want a healthy relationship, I want a stable relationship, and I want a partner who listens to me and validates me and supports me. And I say, well, guess what? Now that you've had a partner that didn't support you, if you run into someone else like that person, you will be so turned off that you can't stand to be in the same room as them. And the hope is to get there at least, because I know some people choose the same patterns over and over in relationships. But that's why I say being on fire and continuing to follow a different trend. Because the people on fire for God and the people on fire for peace, we are out here. But it's not all over the news, it's not all over social media. But once you find it, it will it will override what you're used to. But that's an environment that we have to choose and create, because there are those news outlets that are promoting exactly what I'm talking about. And I know I just said the news isn't reporting it, but I'm thinking of, I guess this is what I see. So, speaking from my experience, I don't see enough positive stories out there. And this is something for me to work on as I'm saying this, of who am I friending? And what are my friends and followers on social media? What are they liking? What are they reposting, that I keep seeing the negativity and the debauchery? So that's something I'm going to work on after this video, is going through my friends list, and we'll see who makes it. But also, it's not just about cutting people out, but like I said, maybe I need to follow different accounts and befriend different people, so that the debauchery is like this, it's like this, a little speck, and the people on fire for God is just, it makes that speck seem non existent. And the point is not to live in a fairy tale and just act like the world is always peaceful, because we know it's not. But my hope for you is that you are surrounded by so much love and joy, so much that it makes those cloudy days seem like the most beautiful day in the world. And I know it's possible because I am living it majority of the time. I'm still human. Last time I checked, I'm still human. So, no, life is not perfect for me. However, most days are beautiful, and I will always remember where I came from for that reason, because I'm here, and I remember When I say that reason, I mean what I went through. It was so painful that it, like, the last, oh, the last 5 or 6 years is when it felt like I started to feel like, wow, I am actually living. Like, I've been alive all this time, but now that growth is happening, I'm excited for life, and I'm looking forward to living a long, prosperous life. And like I said, I'm in the middle. I think in the middle is you're either living for the world or living for God. And in the middle for me is I am the desire is to keep living for God. But because I am imperfect, there are some worldly things that I am letting go of so that I can be closer to God. So I'm not completely in the middle. I like to think that, I am closer to God than the world. But of course, as long as I am alive, I will still have work to do. And just to wrap this video up, pay attention to what trends you are following. Women, woman to woman. I know that phrasing scares a lot of women. Um, when a woman comes to you, woman to woman, chances are she has some bad news, but not here. I am here to tell you to pay attention to the trends that you are following. Pay attention to your actions, because everything you do will have a consequence. And what I mean by that is it can be a good consequence or bad. I know the word consequence is usually attached to bad, but there will be a follow up. Whatever you do, there will be a follow up. And use common sense. Be open to different perspectives. That is the best way to develop common sense, because I know we don't all have it. We don't have it all. Use the wisdom you have and build off of that, because I'm telling you, you don't want to go down that path of being promiscuous because it seems fun for the moment, and just letting yourself go, and just don't be deceived. Don't think you have to be that way to fit in, because there are different crowds to fit into. And I think the beauty is fitting in with yourself and accepting yourself so much that you don't care about fitting in, but you know that God will place you in the right environment to fit in. And people always say it gets lonely at the top. What that usually means is you start to see less people. Sometimes you won't see anyone, but you're not alone. And some crowds are just overpopulated, and just because a lot of people hang out there doesn't mean it's the best place. Think about that, because when you look at what they're doing, you can imagine where they're going to go. And you can imagine the quality of their life when they're alone in their room. So, think about that. I pray that this video encourages you to shift your perspective and have fun in a way that allows you to represent yourself the way that you want to be represented. And just to wrap this up again, I am someone that has piercings. Someone may see that and say, shameful. I have tattoos. Shameful. That's seen as shameful to someone. And because those decisions have been done, it is what it is. I'm accepting. I have no regrets about what I have, um, because I wanted it and I accept it. I also do not want to go through a tattoo removal process. So, but I did question. I will say I've gotten some tattoos and I've questioned where I was at the time and why I got them. And I don't want any more because I just have no desire for them. But I did. That's why I got them. And some people openly criticized me for it. I remember. And again, that's just an example of what I'm saying is there will be something about you that people don't like. They will criticize you and say shameful and yada, yada, yada. And it doesn't have to be your whole narrative because clearly jewelry can be elegant and what's the word I'm looking for? Where it complements you and your outfit. And I'll be honest, I used to have a nose piercing, which the hole is slowly closing. I haven't put anything in it. Once I took my piercing out or my ring out in October of 2023, I've never put anything back in there. So I don't know how close it is, but there's still a mark there. But I just got to a point where I realized a nose ring does not represent who I am today. And that's a choice I made to take it out. And do what you want. There are some nose piercings that I think are interesting that tell a different story. And I will let you decide. If you have one, I'll let you decide what story that tells. And same with the tattoos. Luckily, I believe I got tattoos that respect me, and because there are levels. Even though I was dressing for the hot girl summer, I was also considered a goody two shoes. So there was only so far I was willing to go. And just own it is all I'm saying. And just say, hey, I chose to do this. I chose to get it. And it doesn't have to be all of you. And same with belly. I had my belly pierced years ago. Took it out. That bad boy is completely closed. Last time I tried to put something through it, nope. But I'm happy with that because I'm at a point now where I'm thinking, no, I don't care about a belly piercing. Just doesn't serve me. So, but maybe there's something that you chose to get. Speaking of tattoos, maybe you got a man's name tattooed on you and you're no longer with him. Or a woman. Are you going to cover it up? Or are you going to just say, yep, I got this name and, it is what it is. My point is, there's something that we all can say that is sticking with us, but it doesn't have to be a part of our story where we're actively choosing that lifestyle or choosing to do something that doesn't serve us. I hope all that makes sense, because I know I have a lot of examples and I can go on a tangent. So forgive me. I think you all got the message. And with that, be encouraged. Like, subscribe, share. Whoever needs to hear this, keep listening. If you need to hear this over and over and over, you have permission to be yourself. You have permission to not follow the crowd. If no one's ever told you that, let me be the first. And that is all. That is all for this video. So, until next time, peace out.